Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Career Lab Wednesday. I am your host, George Miller. I am here almost every Wednesday from noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. And my job is to help support you in your career development through the lens of emotional intelligence, learning how to be a more effective leader. And so I'll be sharing tips about that. But before I get into the topic today and any of that, I want to invite anybody who's viewing in that if you have questions, type your questions into the comment section. Or if you want to speak with me directly, jump in here directly on Zoom, and I will do my best to answer your questions and work one-to-one with you that way. Welcome, everybody. We're just getting started here. George Miller. I'm here almost every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. And there's a few ways you can engage. You can type your questions into the comment section or jump in here directly. And if you're here in Zoom and you want to remain anonymous, that's totally cool. You can just type your questions into the chat. If you want direct feedback, you can come off mute, and I will do my best to interact with you that way. Welcome, everybody. So I'll share some about decision making and how that ties in with emotional intelligence. This is an important thing as we are developing in our careers, and whether I am looking to be more efficient, whether I am looking at what path to take in my career, any of those kinds of questions, our emotions actually have an incredible impact on the decisions we make. And counterintuitively, it's not about suppressing the emotions or telling ourselves that we're too emotional. Our emotions are actually incredibly important data that help us make better decisions. In fact, if we don't have access to our emotions, we don't make decisions. There's research by Antonio Damasio where people with a tumor on the emotional center of their brain, when asked to pick between a blue and a black pen to take a survey, well, it took them 5 to 6 hours to decide which pen they were going to choose. So our emotions are a part of our system, and they actually help us make decisions. And understanding ourselves and our emotions better helps us make decisions that actually bring more satisfaction to us. So this is, I think, a pretty potent topic today. But I'll get into all of that. But while we have people joining in here, I want to make sure that everybody understands that whatever's on your heart, whatever you're working on, whatever questions you have, that is the most important thing. So I invite people to either come off mute or type your question into the comment section, and I will do my best to answer your question. So you could ask anything career related, whether it's how to do better in your interviews, if you are looking for help with your resume, if you are looking for help with your relationships in your team, how you're managing, if you have questions about relationships with your boss, how to manage up, how to help your boss, or how to help you work through maybe some of the blocks you have to really understanding what your boss is looking for. All kinds of things are on the table here. If you ask me any question, I will probably tie it back to emotional intelligence because that's what I do. But I want to have all questions on the table. So go ahead and come off mute if you want, or type your questions into the comment or chat. And feel free to do that at any time. So I'll share a little bit about emotions and decision making. So there's a study out of the Max Planck Institute where um, they were tracking areas of the brain that light up before somebody makes a decision. So they're actually able to see that people make decisions 6 to 12 seconds before the conscious mind makes the decision. So that is incredibly disturbing to me. That when I think I'm making a decision and I think that I am consciously choosing what I'm choosing, that the science shows that I have already made that decision. So I've kind of compared this to it's like I'm flying a spaceship and the spaceship is me. And the spaceship is already programmed to go in all kinds of directions and to do all sorts of things. And then there I am sitting in that spaceship thinking that I am really directing this thing, when in fact there's a lot more going on internally that is guiding the decisions I'm making. And so most of what we do when we are making decisions is we've already decided and we're spending that time for in that 6 seconds to 11 seconds and possibly longer justifying the decision we've already made. And this is why when you're looking at your life and it's like, man, I kind of keep doing things that just don't seem to really serve me. Like I keep making mistakes and it's like I'm making the same mistake again and again and again. And the reason it seems like that is because that is what's happening. So in order for us to access or hack into our system and change the way we make decisions, it actually requires a great deal. One of the conversations I have with potential coaching clients is I'll say, there's several costs associated to working with me. One is time, one is money, but perhaps the most challenging one is that you will be disturbed. You'll get the results you want, you'll get more satisfaction, but part of the price that you'll pay is that you'll have to be with some core uncomfortable feelings more: fear, hurt, anger, sadness, and joy. You're going to have to learn how to integrate those into your system so that you can actually make decisions that serve you better. So that's a quick summary of what I'm talking about today in terms of how we make decisions. But I see a good question coming in here. This is fantastic. So I want to jump into this. Thank you for sharing this question. And let me know if you want to remain anonymous. That's totally cool. So I'm going to move forward with your question in that way. Would love to know how to repair a relationship with the boss after there's now an emotional divide. Reasons aside, once the emotions have been stirred, it makes all the workdays sour. Are there steps to recover it? Whoa, this is such a good question. Thank you for asking this. I really appreciate it, honestly. So as everybody is listening in, your job while you're listening in is to relate to this question. Your job while you're listening into this is not to try to solve this for somebody else, but to see how you relate. So I want you to think about the relationships you have at work, or if it's not at work, then think about with family and friends. If any of us are honest, we all have strained relationships with our friends and family. There's always, something that we are working on there. Ram Dass is credited as saying, if you want to know what your spiritual development is like, go visit your family. So there's always uh, work that I can be doing to better understand myself in relationship to other people. So thanks again for this question. I just wanted to tee everybody up who's listening in on how to use this time as we dig into this. So how to repair a relationship with the boss after there's an emotional divide. So I'm going to just jump in and make assumptions. Feel free to type into the chat or the comment section and let me know how I'm doing. You can guide me if I'm off on this, but I'm going to move forward with some assumptions. So one of the things that if there's an emotional divide, that lets me know that there was a time where you and your boss were tight, or you were experiencing a connection with your boss. And so it seemed like you were on the same page. And then at a certain point, that there was a breach in that relationship, in your relationship with your boss. So you're wanting to know how to repair that. So in one assumption I'm having is that it's likely that your boss and you had a misunderstanding, and that your boss thought they could trust you in ways that, and then it, for whatever reason, they then said to themselves, "Oh my goodness, I can't trust this person anymore. I have kind of been too vulnerable and too close with this person, and I now need to take some steps to create some distance here because we're not getting the results that I need us to be getting." And so I think I have sort of, you know, opened up to a potentially codependent relationship here. So as the boss, I am going to create a barrier now. And so what I say to you is that one of the first things, if this is landing for you, that you can see this, that, oh yeah, my boss and I had a close relationship, then now we don't, and I'm trying to figure out what has happened here. My hunch is that your boss felt threatened in some kind of a way, and so they are putting a distance between you. So one of the first things that you're going to need to do is identify what it was that has your boss feeling threatened with you. So that could be all kinds of things. Is it that is it possible that you went around your boss and talked to somebody, to their boss, to somebody that they report to? Is it possible that you connect really well with the team in ways that they don't, and maybe they're feeling threatened by that? What are some of the things that you can imagine if you let yourself be with your fear? So this is part of the price you pay in making better decisions, is that you have to allow yourself to be with your discomfort. So as you let yourself be with your fear of like, oh no, I don't have this relationship with this boss anymore, and now I'm worried about my job, I'm worried about my security. Okay, what are the concerns that my boss might have? What are the things that could have happened that is having them not trust me anymore? Welcome, everybody. So as you do that, then now you can start to possibly see what some of the things that you did as an employee that may have your boss not trusting you anymore. And that's going to require that you stay with that discomfort of feeling afraid and hurt. Because there's reasons you did what you did. It's to acknowledge that if I make a move with my boss that kind of undercuts them, I'm probably doing that out of some kind of scarcity. I in a meeting the other day, I did this. I didn't like where the meeting was going, and there were two people talking, and I stepped in and I said, you know what, I want to go in this direction. And I didn't really acknowledge where the other two people were at and the validity of what they were talking about. I had my agenda and I made that clear, but I did not take people along with me, and it did not work out well for me. That it we had to clear up that interaction and get back on the same page. And I needed to look at how when I'm uncomfortable in a scenario and I have a sense of scarcity with time, that I might not really acknowledge what other people are doing, and I may not clearly communicate what my expectations were in that meeting. So as you're thinking about repairing that relationship with your boss, you've got to look at the ways that you did things that created scarcity and lack of trust with your boss. Is once you can do that and be clear about some of those behaviors, you then are able to shift that. So let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if I'm sort of on the same, if we're on the same page here. I'm going to keep going with this scenario. And for anybody who's just joining in, you're welcome to type your questions into the comment section or join in here on Zoom. If you've got questions that are different than the topic that we're on right now, go ahead and type those in so I can know and hopefully get to those today. So back to relationship with the boss. So when I then see how my unconscious behaviors are playing out in relationship to my boss, then I can claim that. And I can personally then do things differently. And I can say, oh, wow. When I'm in a meeting like this, if I'm going to try to shift the direction of this meeting, I'm going to do a better job of it. I made a mistake and I need to learn from that mistake if I want different results. And given what you said about, there's an emotional divide, things have been stirred and the work days are sowy, are there steps to recover? So step number one is identifying what your behavior is. What are the things that you did that contributed to the breach in this relationship? That is step one. And that is all stuff you can control. And then, depending on your relationship with your boss, if you have monthly meetings with them, one-to-ones, that would be a good time to bring it in and say, I noticed that we have not been having the same kind of interactions, and I get it. I realize that I was overstepping, or I was, going around you, or there's ways that I was interacting with you, or ways I was interacting with the team that were having a negative consequence. And I didn't see it. I see it now, and I'm addressing that. I just wanted to let you know that I see that I was doing that. And I also get that, it will take some time for you to really trust me, that you'll have to see that I am not just paying lip service to this, but that my behaviors have changed. And I want to check back in with you, obviously, in our next one-to-one about this. That's a way where you are taking 100% responsibility for your satisfaction. So there's a book, The Heart of the Fight. Now, it's about relationships, and it's kind of from the couple's standpoint of, an intimate relationship. But I find it incredibly useful for all relationships, business included, work relationships. They're just ways that you can be taking 100% responsibility for what you can do in that relationship. And so again, you need to look at what are you doing that contributed to the breach in the relationship with your boss. If you take it to my boss is doing this, this, and this, and they have all these problems, and when you start going into that, you are now blaming them, and you're not able to move from a position of power with that. If all I'm doing is blaming other people, it weakens what I'm able to do. And that person that, in this case, the boss, yeah, we can put that in here. You're looking for the resources here. That is a book, Heart of the Fight by Judith and Bob Wright. Doctors Judith and Bob Wright. So one of the first things then, well, I'll step this back a little bit. So again, you have to notice the ways that you are impacting that relationship. What are the behaviors you have that you can change? And if all you can see is the things wrong that your boss is doing, then you are deeply in the drama triangle. And I recommend you look at that. There's a book, Games People Play, and there's also a video that I put on YouTube. It was a webinar that takes you through the drama triangle. So the ways that you go to victim, persecutor, and rescuer to avoid responsibility. And one of these things, when avoiding responsibility, part of that is just a lot of us avoid our feelings. To tie it back to decision making. So if I am so invested in not feeling afraid and not feeling hurt, if my system is just 100% dedicated to not feeling the fear and the hurt that just comes with being a human, then I will look for all kinds of ways to blame other people so that I don't have to be with that discomfort. And it's a pretty simple thing you can start doing right away, is just noticing, okay, I feel afraid about this, I feel hurt about this, I feel angry about this, I feel sad about this, and I feel some joy about these things. Just basic things any human being can do is we can start to reclaim and take responsibility for how we are feeling, and to understand that so much of what I'm doing when I'm making decisions is trying to get away from what I'm feeling. Then that's the thing that creates that self-fulfilling prophecy, that creates this endless loop of I can't affect change in the ways that I want to. And so in your relationship with your boss, you are going to need to feel the discomfort. You're going to need to feel the fears, the valid fears too. Not having a good relationship with your boss means that your job is at stake. And so it's good. You should be feeling afraid about that. And you want to take responsibility and own that, because that fear can then actually guide you. That fear can help you address what it is that you need to address in yourself, in your life, that's going to have you be a more effective person. Okay, great. Thank you for throwing that in there. Yeah, check out that video, Taking Charge of Your Satisfaction, Avoiding the Drama Triangle. And there's another one on flow state that I think I took out some of the excess stuff. So great questions. Appreciate you sharing that. I want to see if you have any more questions in response to what I've shared so far. So, do you have some good ideas for next steps you can take about identifying behaviors that you've had that have put a distance between you and your boss? Let me know if there's any more questions that you have about that. We're coming up on the halfway point here, so welcome everybody. I want to do a room reset and have you all know how to engage. So I'm here almost every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. Today I got a little mushroom over here with me, keeping me company, helping me self-soothe as I feel scared about things in the world. And there's a few ways that you can engage. I love it when you jump in directly here on Zoom. And you can also type your questions into the comment section. I will do my best to get to your questions here in the best way I can. And if you want, you can always come off mute and talk to me directly, and I can do my best to work with you on what you're developing in your career. So for the first half today, we had a really good question about how to repair a relationship with the boss after there's an emotional divide. So, owning that there's behaviors that I had that co-created that, because all relationships are a two-way street. Another helpful rule of engagement can be that nobody gets more than 50% of the blame. So as my personality type is that I often just completely blame myself and say, oh, I'm such a piece of crap, I'm hopeless, I can't do anything, blah, blah, blah. That's a pattern that I have had to avoid responsibility. And so, when I do that, I'm taking more than 50% of the blame, and it doesn't actually work in a relationship. There are things that it's like, like in a relationship that I've had with previous bosses of saying, I was not clear on what the expectations were, and I don't think you really communicated those expectations clearly. And I think that has some big impacts, not just for me, some of the mistakes I've been making. Like I can own up that, yeah, I've been making these mistakes, but I think it actually is having an effect across all of the teams. And so I think, I need to talk to you about this because I think that there's some things that you need to shift. That you want to build rapport with your boss before you get there so that you can have that kind of back and forth and where you are a trusted advisor to them. And that doesn't happen super quickly. And it depends on who your boss is. So I hope that's helpful. You can, for everybody who's joining in, you can ask questions on the comment section or jump in here directly on Zoom. There are always steps to recover in relationships. There is certainly steps I can do to improve how I'm doing in my job. There are certainly things I can do to improve my communication skills. So some of those again are, first, recognize what the behaviors are that I was doing that were contributing to this breach in this relationship. And then a next step is changing those behaviors. I have to first really understand what those behaviors were. And that's oftentimes a good time for a coaching session, is to talk to a coach about what you're doing and think it through with somebody else so that you get clarity about what those behaviors are and perhaps why you have those behaviors. What's the unconscious programming running that has you doing these sorts of things that aren't really serving you? That can be an incredibly good way to use a coach. Cool, I'm getting some more input here. And so if you want to have a one-to-one time with me, you can do that for free. I offer a 15 to 20 minute time where we can meet. I can often help people move forward in that time. If that's not enough time, then we can set up a coaching relationship. We can talk about what that would look like. So there's a link to that as well. But now, as I'm getting in here, I'm getting some more input on this question about repairing a relationship with a boss. Reminder for everybody, you can ask any question. It doesn't have to do with this topic. You can ask anything that's on your heart. But I'm going to jump into this one now. So, okay, I think I'm on track. Okay, cool. How would you suggest some dialogue for gentle disagreement, especially if they are asking for too much? There are times I don't feel like I have enough time for what I need to do. Okay. This is good. That's a good question. So I'm going to make some assumptions. One of the things that a lot of people do when they start at a company, when they are afraid about working at that company and they're afraid that they're not going to get the job and they want everybody to like them. Thank you, Kareem. And you, if you are wanting them to like you, you're wanting to do a good job, but some of your hunger needs are such that you are over promising and you're saying, okay, yeah, I got that, I got that, I got that. And you become a yes person that just says yes to a lot of things. That is a challenge for you then to pull yourself out of. And so if you have had this relationship with your boss where you're saying yes to a lot of things and you're incredibly helpful and you're training them to just keep giving you things to do, at some point, then you will have to say, I have been getting too much on my plate. I'm realizing that I don't have the bandwidth to do all of this stuff. So when you send me a new request, I will put together quickly, here's what's on my plate. Is this request more important than these other things? Or do you want me to move this down the line and get to it when I can get to it? So that's one thing that you can do. See, again, you don't want to just blame your boss and say like, oh, they're giving me too much. Don't they understand how hard this is? You want to look for the ways that you set that up. Because there are, again, all relationships, two-way street. There are ways that you created that. And by you recognizing how you created that, then you can shift it and you can communicate then to your boss saying things like, you know what? I have been saying yes to a lot of things and it's been great because it's helped me learn about the business. It's helped me learn a lot of things. And, this is not something that's sustainable. There might be ways that I can, there may be ways that I can do some of these things faster, yes, but I'm going to now need to be in kind of a way that I'm condensing and systematizing so that I can do that. What my understanding is of this business up to this point, these are the most important things, but I want to check in with you on that and see if we're aligned. What's the most important stuff for you that I can help take off your plate, that I can help drive to the finish line. So that's one thing you can do. And you know what? As we're getting into this a little more, if they're asking for too much, there's times where you don't have enough time to do what you need to do. And there's a breach in this relationship with your boss where you're feeling this emotional divide happening now. Well, one of the things, feeling an emotional divide, we always want to break that down more and go into, if I say the word feeling, am I feeling fear, hurt, anger, sadness, or joy, or a combination of them? So feeling an emotional divide, I'm going to assume means feeling hurt, feeling afraid, and perhaps feeling some anger about, I'm not clear on these expectations. So all that to say now, you may want to go to your boss in a next step with them and say, I've been here for 6 months, a year, or however long it is, and I think I'm understanding the way this business works more. But I really want to know, what are the three most important things to you? What are the three most important things for you, so that when I'm doing these tasks and stuff, that I know how to prioritize and I know how to help you move your agenda forward? If a lot of people, 90% or more of the people that I have coached over the past 10 years did not ask their boss that question until talking about it with me. They did not go to their boss and say, what is most important to you? What if there was three things that I could help drive towards? What are those? And cool things happen when you go to your boss and say that. Sometimes they might not even know. Sometimes they haven't thought it through. Sometimes they may say, that's a really good question. Let me think about that. And then you bring it up in your next one-to-one with them. Remember, I asked about what were the three most important things I could help you drive towards? Any updates on that? Here's some of the things. Is it helpful if I share some of the things I'm seeing? They might say, yeah, go ahead. Or they might say, you know what? Thanks for asking that question. I actually think it's these three things. I think that when these things are being handled, and the ways that you can help me do that are this, and this, that would really, really help a lot. Because remember, your boss is got to where they're at by learning and growing. They did a lot of things to develop themselves, and now they have their own new levels of stress. They've got their own things happening where they're on their edge, where they're trying to take care of so many different things. And so when you have that kind of empathy and you can see how you can help, that's often a really good way to get on the same page with your boss. So let me know if that's helpful. So I put a couple things out there. So, how do you suggest some dialogue for gentle disagreement? I think first is getting clear about what's really important to them, and perhaps having the conversation of, I came in here saying yes to a lot of stuff. I've put too much on my plate. I'm going to be systematizing and streamlining, and here's what I think are the most important things I'm looking at, and want to make sure we're on the same page with that. Does that help? Let me know if that's a helpful response there. Because and sometimes people get hired in a company, and the company doesn't even realize what is actually needed. They understand they have a need, but they have not necessarily done their due diligence in assessing what that need really is. I had a client who interviewed so well that the owner of the company said, I hate that I can't hire you, but you just asked such good questions in this interview that you've helped me realize that I'm not hiring for the correct thing. That we actually need to go back to the drawing board. It's actually more of this. So thank you, because you basically just did a free coaching session with me and thought you were doing an interview. But now I can see that there's no point in me hiring you. So he actually referred him to another company, and it worked out well. But you want to go in that kind of way when you're interviewing, by the way, is you want to go in asking questions and getting clarity about the position, because a lot of places don't really understand what they're doing. And so if you can understand how your ignorance is an asset, can be of value, then You can ask questions instead of just taking on a bunch of random tasks that people are throwing your way because they're trying to put out fires and they don't really understand. So if that's what's going on, if you have been hired into a position where they don't really understand what's needed, that's now your new job, is to get clear about that, is to really understand the position, because they may not have had a good job description. That's totally possible. And so if you're just blaming everybody for that, you're not going to get too far in there. You're going to have to help yourself and help other people understand what the job position actually is. So I hope that's helpful. Let me know if that's good for you in terms of some next steps you can take in your relationship with your boss. That helps. I think everybody is guilty of assuming that management and employees have the same daily goals. Oh, light bulb. Good. Okay, so you're getting some insights here. Okay, I'm feeling some joy there because I'm feeling affirmed for that. That's great. Okay, so you think everybody can be guilty of assuming that management and employees have the same daily goals. Yeah, and that is not necessarily the case. And so getting alignment is a big deal. So as a coach, this is a really big thing for me. And everybody who joins in here, what I want you to be understanding is that I want you to be learning new skills and to see yourself as a coach, see yourself as a leader, see yourself as somebody who can host and use your emotions, use your developing awareness of yourself to be more effective with others. So that's great. I want everyone to see yourself this way and to be learning from the questions that people have been putting in here. So I say all that to say that when I am in a coaching session, when I'm talking with a new client, one of the most important things is getting clear about what they want. Most people don't really know what they want. They have a sense of it. There's a pain, a yearning, a hunger of, I know I can do more. I know there's something that I want. And so we have that, but we usually think that the things that we're doing are going to get us more satisfied, when in fact most of the things that I do, or a lot of the things I do, are just keeping me safe, just keeping me comfortable and keeping the feelings of fear and hurt at bay. And so if I'm really going to get the thing that I want, I'm going to have to be with those feelings more. And so I'm going to have to be with the discomfort of really sorting something out. So when I start with clients, we spend a fair amount of time just getting clear about what's so. Oh man, there's a great quote. Maybe it was Ben Franklin. A well asked question is a problem 50% of the way done. So too often we start doing things to address a problem, but we haven't really asked a good question yet. We haven't really gotten clear about what the problem is. So fantastic. I'm so glad that you're getting value from this, that you're having some light bulb moments about ways that you can take personal responsibility, ways that you can look at your behaviors and understand that a lot of those behaviors come from a place of trying not to feel certain things, trying not to feel afraid or feeling hurt, or trying not to feel anger. These core feelings. And this is why I talk about the emotional intelligence, Jim, this is just true for everybody. Men and women, all races, all human beings. Emotions are the universal language. We all have feelings and can communicate even without knowing how to speak English, Spanish, whatever. Just the emotions that we have can jump any barrier. And so the more that I allow myself to be present with fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy, I say these top line feelings because just doing that is like doing a quick little rep in the EQ gym and having me be better at being with my feelings. Okay? So again, when you're looking at changing your behaviors, part of it is just a gentle way you can do that is by saying, wow, I feel afraid about this. Wow, I'm scared that if I change this behavior that has gotten me up to this point, this worked in my family system, this worked in school, and now I'm in this job and these behaviors that I have are not working anymore. And I'm going to feel scared to try some new behaviors. And that's okay that I'm going to feel scared to do. Of course I would feel scared to do new things. Of course. So again, it's not about getting rid of fear. No, fear is a gift. Fear is one of the primary ways that we know we're alive. So I'm not trying to numb out in this process of developing relationships with my boss or with coworkers or whatever. I'm actually learning to embrace all of me, all of my sensations as a wonderful gift that helps me be the best that I can be. Okay? So I'm not seeing any questions coming in. I think that's a pretty good spot to close up today. Let me know. We still got a few minutes. If anybody has any closing questions, feel free to come off mute or type your question into the comment or chat, and I'll do my best to answer those quickly. Again, you can ask anything about resumes, interviewing, work relationships. I welcome all questions. They don't have to be on topic. I will probably make them on topic because that's the expertise that I'm coming from is emotional intelligence. And, I'll say for everybody in closing here as I'm getting ready to log off, again, you can always set up a one-to-one with me. If you've got something that you are working on that you want a little coaching with, I can often help people pretty quickly. If we're going to go deeper, if you're realizing, wow, I've got some limiting behaviors and this is something that's going to take some time, we can talk about a coaching relationship. I do that, and then I have group coaching sessions as well. Those are fantastic because you get so much vicarious learning. So it's kind of like this, except it's not being live streamed. Where we all engage in new behaviors. You're in a spot where that's the agreement. So you're taking risks with other like-minded individuals. And those are a lot of fun. They are intense. You will be uncomfortable in there. And so I always do coaching sessions one-to-one first, just to get you up to speed, see what your history is like with personal growth work and see if that would be a good fit for you. So go ahead, check this stuff out. I am looking forward to working with you. I'm seeing some of you are setting up time with me, so I'm looking forward to that. And you can find me more of this stuff on YouTube. Go there for more emotional intelligence training. And if you are in Chicago, I had somebody come in last weekend who connected with me here on LinkedIn. I do breath work and going into Lake Michigan, and the lake is cold now. The lake is magical. So you think about that, about being with fear. That's the main message I've got is learn to be with your emotions, take responsibility for them. And so what better way than to go into ice water and to be with that? It's different than a lot of other kinds of ways of being with fear because it's so physical. There's that cold that just goes in, like I can feel it in the layers of my skin. I can feel the cold going in. And I do, and I feel afraid. I'm afraid every time. I've done this now 300 to 400 times, maybe 500, every single time. I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm scared. But I go in, I go into the ice water, I'm with the fear in that, I feel that, and then it's incredibly affirming. It's an incredibly affirming experience to know that I can do that, that my body is capable of way more than my brain thought it was capable of. And that practice is something that a lot of people have found very helpful in learning to deal with challenges and learning to deal with everyday stressors, in learning to find other ways of feeling alive instead of oftentimes drugs and alcohol. You know, people go out for that kind of excitement and stuff, and after a certain point in time, it's like, oh, this is just the same thing again and again and again. So I do that. I offer that as a service as well, doing breath work, going into the ice water. And there's other people. If you're in Chicago, by the way, like I just say, you know, do it safely. Look for the groups that do this. Do it in whatever way works for you. If you're anywhere, I mean, if you're in the Midwest and it's getting cold, it helps with seasonal depression and that kind of thing too. So take a look at it. Anyway, I got to sign off, everybody. Thank you for being with me here today, and huge thank you to the questions. Thank you to you who asked the questions. That's really valuable. Thank you for putting yourself out there vulnerably and serving everybody, because those questions are what trigger me to be able to go in and engage with something, and for people to listen in and learn vicariously. So really appreciate your questions. All right, take care, everybody. I will see you next week back here